Welcome back to part 2 of our top 10 dark tourism locations, the serial killers edition. You can check out the first half of this video on our channel, where you'll be able to locate and hear all about an apartment belonging to a cannibalistic serial killer, the cellar under a serial killer's house where they search for human remains, and a pig farm with a very gruesome history. And whilst you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe. My name is Sheesh Merriweather, the founder of Crime Viral Online, and today I'll be doing what I do best, which is talking about serial killers. But first, here is a special treat for all you true crime fans. Magellan TV is a new type of documentary streaming membership. Founded by filmmakers, their team of producers and curators brings together premium content that dives deep into important documentary subjects. Magellan TV has some of the best collections available in true crime, history, science, nature and space. There are so many great choices, it's hard to stop watching once you start. There are over 3,000 documentaries to choose from, and new programs are added on a weekly basis. Even better, there's a growing selection of shows available in 4K without additional cost. You can watch Magellan TV on any device or connected TV. You can even cast from your phone to your TV. It's super easy to use. So check it out now, click the link below to get a full month free. I am currently binge watching Deadly Dates. 91 million of us worldwide search for love online, but internet dating can be a dangerous game. Deadly Dates details the dark side of meeting strangers for dates, as these dating apps become hunting grounds for predators online. Now let's get you back to the serial killers. In at number 5, we have Ed Kemper's mother's house in Santa Cruz, California, located on Harriet Avenue. All these Google Street View links will be in the video description below, so if any of these places are not accessible for you, you can go on a virtual tour instead. Now, this seemingly perfect tree-lined street with neighbouring houses that have white picket fences in 1973 became a horror show. In February that year, following an argument with his mother Clarnell, serial killer Edmund Kemper left his ground floor apartment, here where he lived with his mother, and headed out in his car with murder on his mind. Returning home hours later, the bodies of his 2 victims were in the trunk of the car under blankets. He went back inside the house to apologize to his mother for the fight, and then when she went to bed, he took a butcher knife from the kitchen, went outside, and in this street, he stood and removed the heads of both of his victims. A few months later, he murdered his mother, beating her over the head with a claw hammer and slitting her throat with a knife. The following day, he also killed his mother's friend when she came to visit the house. The House of Horrors today has not been demolished, which we have seen in this pattern of some of the other former homes of serial killers, despite the fact that Kemper himself said that he buried a head of the victim in the garden facing up at the kitchen window where his mother would clean the dishes, because in his signature twisted sense of humour, he thought it was funny, as his mother always liked people looking up to her. The house and these grounds still stand here today. In 2019, the house sold for $1.5 million, so having such a horrendous past clearly did not hurt its market value. Also, don't forget the 3 rules of dark tourism. Number 1, always ask permission before exploring. Number 2, always keep safe. And number 3, always take lots of photos. These photos of this house can be found on Ed Kemper's stories. The link for that website will also be in the description. It is one of the best rabbit holes for Ed Kemper content online. In at number 4 is one of our smallest house of horrors, but also one of our creepiest. Located at number 98 Fulton Avenue in Poughkeepsie, New York, this is Kendall Francois' home, his house of horrors where the serial killer stored the corpses of 8 women he had killed over a 2-year period. Kendall was finally caught in 1998, as luckily one of his intended victims managed to escape and run to the police for help. Kendall was arrested and confessed to everything. When this garbage-filled house was searched, they found 5 bodies in the attic and 3 more in the basement, all of which were in various stages of decomposition. Plot twist: Kendall's parents and his sister were also living in the house at the same time. When detectives arrived at the house with a search warrant, they were greeted at the door by the serial killer's father and basically had to inform him he had been living in an illegal cemetery for the past 2 years. We need to search your attic. Why? Well, we have good reason to believe there are at least 5 to 8 bodies up there. There were so many bodies stuffed in the walls of the house for such a long amount of time that the house had to be completely gutted inside, and then it was fixed up and sold. I am actually really surprised this one hasn't been completely torn down, but then again, decent housing in New York is hard to find, so you can't be too fussy. In at number 3, we have a big shout out to crime viral fan Patricia from Tennessee for allowing us to use the following pictures of her dark tourism visit to Fox Hollow Farm in Westfield, Indiana. Yes, number 3 is the infamous former home of serial killer Herb Baumeister. In 1991, Herb and his wife Julie purchased this 18-acre estate not too far from the city, as they believed it was the perfect home to raise their 2 children. Together, the husband and wife team ran a successful chain of thrift stores and made huge donations each year to children's charities. Then the dream home quickly became a nightmare when Julie discovered the skull of one victim whilst their young son was digging in the family garden. When she questioned her husband Herb, he said the bones had once belonged to his late father and were part of a medical skeleton. A story that she bought and just put to the back of her mind. Whenever Julie took the children away for summer, her husband of 25 years said he would stay at home and look after the stores. What he meant was he was going to Cruz gay bars downtown, pick up his next victim, fill them with alcohol at this house, murder them, and bury the remains at the property. He just wasn't very specific at the time. His wife was so clueless when they said her husband was guilty of homosexual homicide, they had to explain to her exactly what that actually meant. Patricia asked permission from the owner and she was allowed to tour inside the house and take these photos. So it's most likely the victims were killed in the pool area pictured here and their remains were buried in the woods behind the house. A once-in-a-lifetime dark tourism opportunity. So now at number 2, we have Amelia Dyer's house. So we're heading across the Atlantic now to England at number 45 Kensington Road in Reading. This is the former home of British serial killer Amelia Dyer and the location where she was arrested. In Victorian Britain, Amelia learned from another midwife of the existence of baby farmers, people who opened their homes to young women who got pregnant out of wedlock, and then promised to find adoptive homes for their babies for a fee. Tragically, the infants were then starved to death or smothered. Neglected babies that cried a lot were given an opium-laced syrup known as Mother's Friend to quiet them. This led to many deaths by starvation, as a baby who is given opium will eventually refuse to eat. She was caught when a baby's body was found in the River Thames, wrapped in paper with this home address. When they arrived at her home, they discovered the overwhelming smell of rotting flesh. She was tried and hanged for one murder, but it is believed that she is responsible for possibly 300 to 600 more infant murders that took place over a period of 2 decades. She is now known as one of the most prolific female murderers in history. Finally, we have arrived at the most popular location for serial killer fans. It is, of course, John Wayne Gacy's house in Chicago, Illinois. Between 1972 and 1978, serial killer John Wayne Gacy murdered 33 teenage boys and young men at his home in 8215 West Somerdale Avenue in Norwood Park Township. To get his kicks, he then began luring victims back to the address by either force or deception, and then they were strangled to death. The remains of 26 victims were found hidden in the crawl space where Gacy had poured quicklime down there to help speed up the process of decomposition. They also had to dig up the driveway, garage, and yard during the initial search for more bodies. I would have been the neighbour on this street pretending to water my plants all day and night just to look and see what the hell is going on at the clown man's house. I knew he always was a weirdo. This is a rebuild of the original property that was demolished in 1979 for obvious reasons. The land was then impounded by the sheriff and sold off to pay what Gacy owed in back taxes. The plot was vacant for about a decade until it was finally sold, and then they changed the house number from 8213 to 8215 to cover up the murders. But we all know what happened. Then in 2019, the house was relisted for $400,000, and I've also added the Zillow listing in the description below so you can have a virtual look around. Like, I love what you've done with the place. You can hardly tell 33 people were murdered here. If you guys have any dark tourism suggestions, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. Don't forget to check out the first part of this video, and whilst you're there, like and subscribe. But for now, enjoy your morbid tours and keep it creepy, everybody. We'll be back very soon with even more serial killer content.